Welcome back, everybody, and again, thank you to Sue Stiles for providing such great information.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. So we are going to talk about some anti-spam stuff because it's important.
So let me kind of give it back, and I know that we've talked about this at length, but there's some important things coming July 1st. First of all, we talked about this July of 2014, and what happened was you guys had 3 years to get your databases cleaned up, get explicit consent from your clients, because anybody that you had on your mailing list that hadn't basically not unsubscribed at the time, you agreed, everyone agreed that you had implied consent with those people, but that consent expires on Saturday. So you will no longer be able to email out those people who you do not have a personal relationship with, who may have done a deal beyond 2 years ago, who you're not really sure. So you're going to have to call the herd a little bit in terms of your database, or work hard this week to get consent and over the coming weeks.
Well, and I bet that you guys have probably seen a lot in your inbox. You know, for example, the car company that I bought a car with 5 years ago, they sent an email being like, hey, we just want to make sure that we can still continue to send you important updates or offers, right? Because even for them, bought a car 5 years ago, haven't really been in touch since, on the mailing list, but if I don't respond to that, technically, they're not allowed to email me anymore. So there's a lot of companies like that that you're probably seeing examples of them trying to get consent, especially last week and this week. I think it's going to be heavy. So those are just ways to look at that too.
Yeah, and so one of the things too is that why you got to think rich in your head, and because you're going to need to do some brainstorming on your own here.
Yep.
Why would someone give you consent? And if you just think, well, because I want to try to get them on my newsletter, it's like, well, is your newsletter worth getting on? Is it actually interesting? Kirsten, I love that you sent out that Best My Nest piece, because you guys can print that off, save it, and actually show people, listen, this is some of the stuff you're getting. Like, there's some great articles in there that people can use to improve the lifestyle they live in their home. So that's outstanding. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some easy ways to get consent, show you some examples, talk about the exact verbiage you want to use, the exact information that you need to be included on the forms, and just make sure that you are completely up to speed with that.
Before we start, can you just speak to the people that they don't need to worry about getting consent from right now?
Sure. First of all, why would you want to not get consent from somebody? Why would you ever want, and I'll get to it, but it's like, why would you ever want to email somebody a commercial message who is, you're trying to spam them? Like, that's just it. So I just want you to think in your head, it's like, don't send stuff to people who don't want it or aren't expecting it. So I just want to give that as an overall theme. So my opinion is that you need to get consent from everybody. Now there are, and I've read the Act just again this weekend, literally the Act, the long one. There are a couple exceptions. I'm going to talk to those very, very shortly. But here's the deal, is there's two different types of consent. There's implied consent and there is expressed consent. Expressed consent, if someone has opted into your newsletter, that is good forever. If they did it in 2007, you're good forever. You don't have to go ahead and get consent from those people again. So that's express consent. They've actually checked off a box and said, yes, I give you permission, or told you verbally, I give you permission to do it. Should have it documented, but that's express consent. Implied consent is when you've done a transaction with someone, in which case you have 2 years to keep in touch with them over commercial communications, so sending them out information related to the transaction, things like that. You also have to give them an opportunity to unsubscribe with every commercial message you send. So again, every contact you send that's promotion-based. The other one is if they've inquired, make an inquiry on a property. If you're sending them listing alerts or something like that, you have 6 months to set that up, and they must be able to unsubscribe. That's built directly into Matrix, things like that. So make sure that that's it. So express consent is what you really, really want to get, because that lasts forever, even previous to all this legislation being announced. The other one is personal relationships. Now, there's some interpretation on personal relationships. They consider this a relationship where it's very reasonable that you've been in touch electronically with this person over a longer period of time, but you can't just start spamming your personal database with that. If you've already been in touch with these people consistently, you have a personal relationship, you can prove that you have that personal relationship based off reasonability. It's a little wishy-washy, but they consider those exempt from the anti-spam rule. The other one they say is frequency of communication. When is the last time
Yes.
you actually touch base with this person? If it's like, oh yeah, my buddy and I, 2 years ago, we were great friends. I haven't been in touch again electronically. You've lost it. That you can't prove that personal relationship anymore.
Right.
So the bottom line is, only market to people who have given you permission. That's all you want.
There's also, and I just want to mention, from a reasonability standpoint as well, I look at CIR and I look at the way our realtors may email each other, or if one of our preferred suppliers or partners. Some of the legislation, and I just want to speak to the other side of this, is in terms of reasonability, is if somebody in the company emails you a listing, we definitely have rules around this being like, what, you really shouldn't be doing that. Or if a partner or preferred supplier emails you, there's definitely right ways to be doing it. But part of the reasonability is if somebody within the company or a partner of the company who does a lot financially to help bring forth the resources that you guys have, relationships that you have within the industry, please use that reasonability hat before you say, I'm going to go and complain to the government of Canada, right? Because there's a lot of rules if you actually start looking at the act in terms of what makes sense if people do touch base with you on. And just the way that you don't want people, you don't want people reporting you for something that you did thinking, oh, well, I thought that would be okay. Just kind of do unto others as they will have done unto you.
Let me just
a little bit on that note, because I just think that it's better to give people a bit of a second chance, or say, oh, you know what, I think the intention was pretty good when they emailed me this. Maybe there's a better way they could have done it. I'll touch base with them on that. Because the last thing anyone needs is people looking about this and deciding they're going to witch hunt, right?
Well,
like most people have decent intentions.
And let me speak to that for a second, because I've seen some people complain already, have been like, oh, you can't send me this. Actually, if you're very easy to find online. You're a realtor. You want to be easy to find online. If your email is published as a realtor, it's conspicuously published, meaning that it's easy to find, someone can send you a message related to your place of work. Now, you have to be able to unsubscribe, but they didn't spam you.
No.
And if they're also a realtor with CIR, they also didn't spam you, so you have no grounds. People are like, oh, I'm going to complain because it's unsolicited. You're actually wrong. They're actually allowed to send you, just like we're allowed to send you guys as many messages as you want because you're part of CIR. I'm just going to clarify one point there, that we have an office policy that you can't do that. We're not sending out mass listings to each other on that. We have a Facebook page for it. We've created avenues for that. But legally, you're not in the wrong. So you're not going to get a $1 million fine. Plus, I read on the website, I was looking at the actual anti-spam website, and it's like, oh, I'm going to get fined $1 million, or I'm going to get fined $1 million, $10 million. And they said, myth on that. They said, we have this wide range from warnings and everything else. So as long as you're doing your best to get in compliance and then making sure that you are going through that and following what we're talking about here, you're going to be okay.
Don't
go through a panic thing. Continue
that's
to
what
run
I
your
wanted
business.
to. That's what I wanted to mention.
I don't want you guys to start inhibiting business practice because you are curious. It's like, well, I've been in touch with this person. They told me. I did meet them here. Document it and go from there. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's get into the actual easy ways to get consent. The easiest way, in my mind, is just have a form on your website. Have a form on your website that says, don't say this, but the gist is, hey, sign up for my newsletter because we send out great stuff, including home maintenance tips and things like that, and you can unsubscribe at any time. You're good. And then if they fill out the form specifically to sign up, you're in the clear. We're going to show you guys an example of that verbiage here, but you can do that on your website. You can also use a third party like Google Forms, and just using MailChimp, they have a forms option directly in MailChimp for those of you that are using it. Now, as part of Google Apps,
I've had some from SurveyMonkey as well, where someone will say, click here, would you like to, yes or no, and that one is so easy to use too.
So we have an image here, and so go ahead and pull up our first image here of Google Apps. So this is your calendar or your email. There's this little 9-pack of icons at the top right-hand corner when you're using the CIR system. And you'll see in the middle in the purple, it's called Forms, and it's Google Forms. And this is an easy way to create forms that you can embed on your website if you have nothing else on here. So when you go to the next page here, I just did up this sample form, but it's going to show you some verbiage here. So this is a preferred client update subscription. So we have this preferred client update that goes out. You want to use it. This form can be embedded directly into your website. And when you go to your account, all your form submissions auto-populate in. But it says here, it says, please sign me up to receive our preferred client update via email. So you're telling them what they're going to receive over email. You'll get all the latest ways to improve your home and stats, and the stats you need, I was doing this quickly last night, to understand the current real estate market conditions. We hate spam as much as you, so remember you can unsubscribe at any time. And then email address, first name, and the form is cut off here, but there's also last name, our address at the bottom, and to sign me up and a phone number and sign me up as well. We don't make phone numbers mandatory for that, but an option to sign them up. But you need this little disclaimer at the top saying what they're going to get, very specifically reminding them that they can unsubscribe, and it also tells them who's sending it. Now it's on your website, it's CIR Realty, all the information is there, so as well, and you're saying that it's yours because they're on your website. So that is an example, but that is one of the easiest ways that you guys can go ahead and get consent. It's captured in the background, and you have that there forever.
Great. Next one, and I would agree that that's the best way to do it. I also think it's probably the way you're going to get the least amount of people to give you consent.
Yeah,
which
it has to be, yeah.
And only because, corporately we go through this all the time, and typically people will not fill out a form. It's just not that. So, but I mean, it's a great thing to do and it's worth doing, but we'll also talk about a couple of other ways that'll make it a lot easier. Yep. Just in case. Because to say, go to my website, fill out this form. I know we struggle that with a little bit on the Best My Nest activation side. So it's just, so looking at some ways to say, well, how can we make that a little bit easier? And one of those, and we have a few, but one of them is over the phone or face-to-face. So verbal completely counts. And it's easier in a conversation because a lot of people in a conversation will be like, yeah, sure. Especially because it doesn't look like they're signing their life away on a form for it. You can explain it a little bit. It's a bit more personal. But the important thing about that is you document it. So let's say you're sitting in an open house. A buyer comes through. They're looking whatever. And you say, hey, obviously you're looking to buy. We have a Best My Nest program. You don't need to, work with me to have it. It's the brokerage offers it. But, when you do move into a home, you can get discounts on the new carpet you have to put in, the new paint that you want to paint your master bedroom, whatever. It's pretty easy. Can I send you a little bit more information on it? Most people will be like, oh yeah, sounds good. In your little open house journal that you have beside you, just say so-and-so on this date said that, and that's good enough. Same with if you're talking to somebody on the phone about, hey, we have some really great family events coming up in the summer. Can I give you a bit more information about them? We have something that we send out that has whatever. Yeah, sure. I have a family. I'd love to go to some free family events. Take a little journal, document it, and it can be on paper. You could also have, a Google spreadsheet or something where you just keep adding these two. But as long as you can document the conversation, face-to-face or voice-to-voice is very easy. We have one realtor who did a great job where he registered a bunch of his Best My Nest clients, sent out the letters, and then his step 2 to get activations was just calling them all, being like, hey, notice you haven't activated this. I'm going to do it for you. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Perfect. June 27th, spoke to so-and-so, said to activate. If there's ever a problem, you have documentation. But the other thing is as soon as somebody says yes and you've called them, chances of them going to the government and complaining about you about sending this, right? They're probably not going to. You've had a conversation about it.
Exactly. And as long as the conversation that you had was being very clear about what you're signing them up for, you're totally good. And we have a little script here that you can use. And I love the concept. When you get asked how's the market, first of all, everyone asks you. We talk about it, and I just gave you guys an example during our market stack segment of single family homes are moving well, it's incredible. Condos, you got to be a little bit more aggressive, and the price of oil, we hope to see it trend upward, but right now we're going to kind of see where it goes. But it's been the busiest it's been in 3 years. What community do you live in? How long you've lived there? How long do you like? How do you like it? They're answering that, and then you can ask the question. You know what? We publish a monthly report that our preferred clients receive over email. Yeah. Obviously, you can unsubscribe at any time. Would you like me to resend it to you? And right there, you can then capture the date, the time, I like the location if you're at an open house, and I would just post in the rough script used, and the best place to probably do this is just right in the contact information file, like in your CRM, just in the notes, saying got consent, here's the information, and you're ready to rock. No one can say that's totally compliant.
Cool. The other way to do it is on a paper sign-up form or a contest ballot. So, Lindsey, I loved the the online form that you showed for the preferred client update.
Let's get to that in just 1 second.
But that type of stuff is, you could just print that out and stick it in your listing presentation, or stick it in your buyer presentation, or print something off where it just says, hey, like now that we've gone through this, I have a couple things that I'd like to send you. If you're interested in any of them, can you just initial here, and then I'll do it. And that can just be while you're sitting down in front of somebody. And you probably could just print off those forms if you wanted to.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here's an example of a property inquiry form that you guys can have a look at. This is on your virtual office already. It's in our in-house forms. It's called property inquiry form. We are going to post this up on the email as well. Make sure that if you don't have the address at the bottom here, you're handing your business card with it. We're going to go ahead and add just the address on the bottom here before we send it out this afternoon. A note to self, write it down. Kelly will remind me. She's been our compliance person on this, and she's been doing a great job of making sure we're on side on that. So thank you, Kelly. And so we have it where this property inquiry form, just like what Kirsten said, as part of your natural process of talking to the client, make sure you just fill this out with them. And they say at the bottom, we always never want to spam you, so go ahead and sign here. And then we have we'll zoom in here on the actual signature part where Kirsten was talking about. Just go to the next slide there, Mason. So you'll see here, please send me information regarding property evaluation, property search, sold property information. And then it says here again, by signing below, I agree to be contacted via email, via the information requested. I would also add on there, if you were to create another form, via email and SMS regarding information requested above, provided you have their phone number, and that way you can actually send some text message alerts as well, and go in and to comply with the anti-spam. And again, they can unsubscribe at any time. Another thing I want to talk about is balloting. And so ballots with contests, one of the things you can do is when you're at an open house or something, you say, sign up and win, sign up and receive a free Best My Nest membership, where you're enticing people to sign up for that. And I love the sign up and receive a free Best My Nest membership, because it says we want you to be as part of that. And then again, it basically says, sign up, and you have on the form, you have that disclaimer that we showed earlier on our Google form that basically says, by signing up, I understand that I comply to this, and it's just right on your ballot. But people want to sign up to win, and that's it. And add SMS in there as part of it as well, so you can make sure that they comply to receive text messages.
Love it.
Yeah. So balloting is a great way if you're going to hold a contest at your open house or something. We've talked about that in the past, or use Best My Nest as an option. Yes, it will cost you $5 for every entry, but they get a membership card with your name on it and everything else. We're going to talk about Best My Nest next, so we'll go right onto that. Glorious.
Yeah, so Best My Nest is that's probably the easiest way to get consent for something, because you're giving them something so great. So people have had really good success with this one. One suggestion, and this actually came from, I think it was Audra and Gary Williamson, is that when you're sitting with a client and you're doing either the buyer brokerage agreement or the listing agreement, in the term section, if you've already talked about Best My Nest and the newsletter with the events in it and getting the card, just say, hey, I just want to make sure that I'm on side and that you've agreed for me to send you this. Is that okay? And then when you're filling in the contract, just add something to it, right in the terms that lets them know. And then you have your consent right there. And most people in their process of buying or listing, Best My Nest is such a great, great, great tool that people are typically going to say yes to that anyways if you're having a conversation. So easy spot to put there. Again, in terms of activations, if you have worked with somebody for the past 2 years, they verbally agreed that they wanted to be part of Best My Nest, activating them yourself is okay as long as you have that implied consent. They can obviously also go on and do it themselves, but that is what it takes to get the newsletter, so you want people giving those activations. But another thing that you can do for Best My Nest is same thing. If you're going through your buying or your listing presentation and there's a page in there on Best My Nest, you can just say, hey, if you're good for me to send you the monthly events, our monthly event newsletter for classes, just give this page a quick little signature. That way when I'm going back, I can make sure that I know that you asked for this and we can get started. So lots of easy places for you to get a quick signature or a quick okay from somebody to send them that newsletter.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we were talking again about how people don't sign up online to typical forms. There has to be a compelling reason about why someone would do it. So I just use that form as an example to show you can make a form, But if whatever you're offering, if it's like, get the hottest property alerts or things like that, make sure that then you're telling them by signing up on this form what they're going to get, but make it compelling.
Totally.
And that's where you best my nest is. I like saying, something like, I'd like to gift you a Best My Nest membership from CIR, which is going to give you exclusive discounts from over 100 vendors to help you around the home. It also includes monthly home ownership tips that come to your email. You've now told them who's sending it, what they're going to receive, and of course you can unsubscribe at any time. May I send you the membership card to get you signed up? And now people are just like, yeah, absolutely. And now you actually have explicit consent to go ahead and get them added onto the newsletter list as well. Plus, there's actually a second level where when you sign them up on their behalf, they do receive an email link as well to comply with MailChimp. Because MailChimp says, explicit, or verbal consent doesn't work. So we actually send out the link as well where they have to click on it.
So very safe.
Yeah, it's totally good.
Yeah, exactly. So even if you were to go, so just to reiterate that, even if you were to go on and activate somebody's Best My Nest membership, they still have to click a link to get it.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty safe bet for you to go on and activate it.
That's right. That's right. So, so from verbiage standpoint here, just getting an example. So we have posted up in the What You Need to Know section the CREA's guide to anti-spam for realtors. And they actually go a little bit like one step over in some respects, but follow it and you're going to be good. But just get creative. Don't use their wording. Their wording is very clinical. You want to make sure you make it compelling. I love saying things like, man, I hate spam. I never want to spam anybody. So obviously you can unsubscribe at any time. And now you've fulfilled it and said, and please remember, you can unsubscribe from this list, clinically. So I like massaging the wording on that. But let's take a look at an example here we have that's direct from CREA on a form. So it says, enter your email address below to receive emails from Lindsey Smith, CIR Realty, about properties and listings in your area. Consent can be withdrawn at any time by clicking the unsubscribe link of, that's the clinical part that I'm not a huge fan of. And then they have the address at the bottom. Make sure that's on your website, getting close to the form. So here's the deal. Here's what you need. So leave this on for a second here. You need to tell them exactly what they're signing up for. And again, this is properties and listings in their area. So they're going to receive emails about properties and listings. Who they're receiving it from, that's the name of the realtor there. What medium they'll receive it, to their email. Again, they're going to receive emails. They can unsubscribe at any time and make sure your address and contact info is easily accessible. And you've ticked all the boxes. And now it's up to you to be compelling. If your newsletter is not compelling, don't send it.
Right.
That's my thing. If it's not a good, if you're literally just trying to spam people, don't send it. Thank you, Mason. That's awesome. So, in summary here, compelling information is what information people are going to want to receive. Just make sure that you've dotted your T's and crossed your I's in terms of getting this set up. This is a little bump in the road that you guys are going to be using for the next 20 years in your business. So just put a little bit of upfront effort to clean up your database, get the consent done, and get people opt in. Plus, the unsubscribe rate on our Best My Nest newsletter is minimal. It's minuscule. It's awesome. And the reason is...
It's under 1%.
Yeah, is that people have actually subscribed to be there.
Yes.
It's like they've said, I want to receive this. And if they want to receive it, the open rates go up dramatically.
Absolutely.
And you get a more engaged audience. And I'd rather have 100 really engaged people versus 1,000 people that don't want to hear from me.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what? And if you're sending out something to a big list, it's also an opportunity to touch base with a big list. So if you are going to send something out en masse to people, kind of like my Kia vehicle company did when they were looking for, they actually used it as a really good opportunity. They put in a great image. They mentioned a bunch of stuff that they had coming up this year, and then there was something, right? So you use it as a bit of an opportunity. If you are going to be sending something out, brand it, make it look nice, maybe put something fun in there for people, right? Still a touch point.
Do it this week.
Yep.
So your transitional period expires on Saturday.
Totally.